Right now we're at Cashman's Field. As in the background, as you can see, is the baseball mound, and that was here when we were here. Although I don't think all the gates and stuff were here then.
No, they've changed it a little bit. They put another batting cage back there on the other side. But what's missing, of course, and of course they have the new basketball court over here. They didn't have that back then. But we did have swings and seesaws for the children. Also did fishing just as you go past that fence back there. There's Little River, and we used to go fishing back there. What was also nice, during the summer we had a summer recreation league, which we played baseball here in the league, and then also the parks recreation facilities all over Haverhill. You had all kinds of crafts and arts and games for children from the area, and that was a great idea to keep the children involved, doing something around the neighborhood, and not having basically nothing to do. There was always something to do around here. But they also played a little semi-pro baseball in this park, and they did right up until just a few years ago that I know. But it's really been the host of many different activities for the children and even adults of this community.
That's right. Yeah, I remember coming down here on a summer's day, many a summer day, and they had the recreations, the board games, and not just board games, but they always had something going on, which was great.
That was wonderful, and they were wonderful instructors that were here to help the children along. They really cared for the kids, and it's awful good to see when someone is volunteering their time to help the children out in any park. It doesn't matter where, but one of the first was right here at Cashman's Field.
Right. And some of the neighbors, do you recall any of the names of the neighbors that used to live near us?
Well, at the time, back in the 50s and early 60s, I could go on forever. But I will mention a few that lived right around the area where we now are close to. And that was the Nordengrins, Sullivans, Roaches, Renews. You had Plewards, you had the Skenas, Cariffios, and you could go on and on forever with these names, and Clossies.
Right, exactly. Sergeant.
The Sergeants, the Gazzardis, Ralph's Restaurant, who owns Ralph's Restaurant over in Ward Hill. Right. They lived in the neighborhood also. And like I said, I could go on forever.
This is what I believe one of the first shopping centers, at least in the Haverhill area.
I think you're right, Larry. I think what we had over here was the first national store, which was well needed around the area because there were very few variety stores or actual grocery stores around the area. Small, very small stores were here, like I think it was Bakerman's right down the street here on the left-hand side. And then you'd go into Lafayette Square, and there were a couple of small variety stores there. But here you had a large First National, one of the biggest in the city. There was another one on Main Street that I believe was quite large also. But in behind First National was also a department store called Mal's.
Right.
And one of the very first actual department stores of that size in the area. And that made it what you would now consider the first shopping plaza.
Right.
And very interesting that we would have it here on this side of town.
And it was a regular department store with everything that you see nowadays in any of the department stores,
right.
But it was hard to find that kind of a store around at that time. But I also remember that there was a 5 and 10 right on the corner here, too.
That's correct.
And they had a snack bar, too, both Mal's and in that place.
Perfect for the kids.
And we used to visit there often.
Absolutely.
Ma would say, go get some milk. And she wouldn't see us for 3 or 4 hours, but that's all right.
That's all right. She knew what we were doing.
That's right, where we were going. On this First National, I really remember the overhead here that's still here today, as a matter of fact.
It's the same structure.
Yeah.
And what was great was when it was raining or snowing out, You know, people could actually drive right up at that time, because now, I mean, you see them all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
But to think back then, they really didn't have many of those, and people could drive right up and get into their cars comfortably without getting wet with their groceries, because at that time, as you know, everything was paper bags.
That's right.
You didn't have any plastic bags, and you really had to worry about them getting wet.
And another thing is they normally the baggers or whatever, it would be part of their job to put the bags in the car and stuff
Absolutely. You had the young adults come out and put them right in your cars for you, and you know, a lot of that is lost now. Some places still do it, but very few now. You're basically on your own. Luckily enough, you do have a few enthusiastic workers that want to help people along the way. And there may have been some kind of safety issues involved over the years that may have caused it to change. But it certainly was a time in its own.
Right, right. I remember at the 5 and 10 we used to get Crush. Orange Crush was introduced at that time too. That was another thing.
Orange Crush, Dad's Root Beer.
Yeah, right, right.
Also, in the namesake of Ted Williams, there was Ted's Root Beer, even though I think it was really named for somebody else, but they used his picture a lot on the bottles. But all that took place, and also we had the carnivals come in here, and they used the parking area here for carnivals, and I think even the circus was here a couple of times also. A lot of famous people at the time came by, and it was great for the kids in this area. It was just a wonderful place to live and to enjoy yourself. There was so much to do, so many places to go that were fairly close, and it just worked out wonderfully for the children of this area.
I did notice a couple of changes here. First of all, they don't have the water tanks that
Absolutely,
they had before.
Gigantic water tanks. They probably stood about 80 or 100 feet tall, more than that possibly, but they were gigantic. And of course, now you have a field over there, and which is great for the kids of that area.
Right. Do you remember S&H green stamps? They were given out at the grocery stores like the First National and A&Ps. You would redeem them for all sorts of items, anything from blankets to towels to small electronics. And I believe there was a redemption store in Haverhill by Winter Street. Both A&P and First National grocery stores also sold encyclopedias, one volume at a time. Do you remember that? And when they would introduce the next volume, they'd have a special introductory sale. Mal's department store was very much like today's stores. I particularly remember buying records, LPs, and visiting the snack bar, where they served soups and sandwiches, hot dogs, hamburgers, French fries, and shakes.